Greetings everyone and welcome to this video where we are going to talk about PowerPoints. I like to call this little session Death to the Bullet Point, or how I stopped worrying about text and focusing on the image. First thing you should know is that I am an English teacher. I place a great deal of value on words. In fact, most of my career has pretty much been comprised of writing, editing, grading words. But I have a confession to make. I do not remember a single slide or a single bullet point from my college classes. Sometimes I think about my poor professors, hammering out bullet point after bullet point, pouring their wealth of knowledge into each slide, and then carefully selecting and placing that beautiful clip art like a delicate garnish on a delicious intellectual meal. I don't remember a single one of them. But I do remember what I'm about to show you. And full disclosure, I have shortened it a bit from its original in the interests of our time. But before I show it to you, I have to ask you to travel back in time with me to my college days, to the year 2001. I was 21 years old, taking a summer course at the Virginia Commonwealth University with Dr. Walter Coppage, a man who entered the class with the stage presence of Sean Connery playing King Lear. He had a white beard and a seersucker suit. It was summer and he didn't wear his trademark bow tie. And on this particular morning, he came in, faced the class, and said this phrase from Thoreau's Civil Disobedience: "Let your life be a counterfriction to stop the machine." And then he showed us this. Let your life be a counter-friction to stop the machine. Well, for us in this class, questions popped up faster than Dr. Coppage could call on students. What was the machine? Are we parts of the machine, or are we the thing that the machine processes? Are we the chickens? And why do they burn off the beaks of the chicks? And that's when Dr. Coppage answered. They burn off the only defense a chick has, so it cannot fight against the machine. And from there, we engaged in one of the most interesting class discussions I've ever had. And I never forgot it, to the point that I still use this clip today in my American literature classes. No bullet points, no scholarly definitions of concepts, just inquiry. Authentic, spirited, liberated inquiry. Guided by the professor who knew how to nudge us in this direction or that direction, but nonetheless, an inquiry that was our own. So, let's begin with some facts about humans, especially the ones we teach. First, most information we receive is visual, and this is how we make meaning out of most of our experiences. And look, if you don't believe me, just ask this guy.
Cognitive psychologists now tell us that the brain doesn't actually see the world as it is, but instead creates a series of mental models through a collection of aha moments or moments of discovery through various processing. The processing, of course, begins with the eyes. Light enters, hits the back of the retina, and is circulated, most of which is streamed to the very back of the brain at the primary visual cortex.
See? Now, what we also know is that text can get in the way of content. While textual information can offer some precision in terms of meaning, it requires a process of decoding to understand, and especially in our practice, it can clutter the textual field. So if we pile too much on, it gets very disorienting. Sometimes too much text, through our interest in being precise, cut short the interpretive process students want to engage in. In fact, the process that they have paid to be there for. There's another side to this, and that is the students that we teach. This is the YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat generation. If they want to know how to do something, they don't read a manual, they go watch a video. If they want to be entertained, they don't scour programming schedules. They start watching and click on recommended links on demand. Many of these videos as well embed in the middle of them rhetorically charged messages regarding politics, behaviors, and products. And in fact, young people are often content producers. They may not see themselves that way, but they are producing and uploading and distributing, in effect, publishing content in the form of visual media. And this is even more important teaching online or in hybrid formats, because now much of our content is channeled through the screen, which is an inherently visual medium. If we see ourselves as educators and not as mere content delivery systems, then this is about what students will remember, how they will grapple with what you present to them. In other words, what you put on a slide is far less important than the impression it leaves on a student. And one concession for those curmudgeons jealously guarding the sanctity of bullet points: sometimes you need to convey definitions. I get it. Sometimes we must act as presenters of information. And if that is the priority, then fine, go for the bullet points. But I think we too often relegate ourselves to the role of conveying information, when we really should be striving to bring students to an aha moment, a moment of discovery, because that is deep learning. So what if we revamped our approach to use, in the case of something like PowerPoint, where the slides and the projector is a means to open up questions, to stir interest? So I'm going to show you my process of revising a presentation for a recent professional development class. First, I'm going to show you a few slides of my original PowerPoint, one that I admittedly downloaded from a teacher site, and at the time thought, this'll do, and I added some things and took out some things, but really I was focused on the content. I didn't think much about the aesthetics. And it's important to note, by the way, the content here is focused on Romanticism. So this is a big ism for my American literature classes. A lot of theoretical and thematic concepts I was trying to pack in to this PowerPoint. And one of the great mistakes that I made is that I falsely equated the amount of information with the importance of the information. Meaning that it seemed that the more bullet points I added, the more clarification I added, that showed that this was more important. So you can actually take a look at these, and just from the outset, they are not visually appealing. The kind of cheeky red curtain in the background. There's two tones of yellow between the bullet points and the header. And then we have a completely different font where we're looking at the content of the bullet points. Hardly any space is between the text, and nothing I do in terms of adding animation or transitions will fix the inherent problems of this PowerPoint. I would typically use each of these points as a springboard to offer a more detailed explanation. The problem is there is no spring to this board. It is flat. It doesn't do anything. It stirs no interest. It stirs no emotion. So in converting these, I needed to go through the process of considering what is the main point in just 1 to 3 words that I really needed to emphasize. Now, in this case, I had the header as the main point, and that was convenient. And so when I went to hunt for the compelling images, because I wanted to make this more image rich, I looked for images that spoke to that concept. And this, by the way, took much more time than you may think. It sounds easy, just go to the internet, Google, and do a Google image search for the concept. But I needed something that spoke to the concept and would garner interest. I also wanted to consider my audience as well, and presuming that they would be in tune with pop culture, I went for those references. They probably do not have an emotional connection to the story of Moby Dick, but they may have seen some of these films or just be visually intrigued by the drama that is kind of evoked by seeing these images. So in the end, this is how I transformed the PowerPoint. When I used this presentation, I was surprised at how students immediately started interpreting the image. They immediately started wrestling with the concept because the image stirred their own thoughts. And after a short discussion, I still reviewed the key bullet points verbally. I mean, I went over the key elements that I had to cover, but this came after the process of their own self-discovery. Furthermore, I felt less like a drag, to be honest. Fewer glazed eyes and students engaged. And this is really the stuff of learning. I mean, not just relaying information. And isn't that why we keep coming back to the classroom, even the virtual classroom? Because there's these aha moments. And that's what makes teaching so thrilling. Now, one concern could be, if you strip out most of the text, how do you know, or how will students know, what notes to take? But guys, friends, colleagues, could we get a reality check here? Let's just entertain the idea that notes are actually being taken. If notes are being taken, the quality notes are from something noteworthy that you said, not something that was posted up on the board. After all, no one can listen to the genius of my postulations over the embrace of emotional energy in the Romantic era while swiftly jotting down every word on a slide like this. So I have been in situations where the presenter prepares a PowerPoint, then prints out the PowerPoint with space for notes, maybe 3 slides per page, and then half the page, on the other side is for notes. Prints all of that out, then hands it out. And where do those printouts end up? Yeah, you know. So I'm starting to review my slide presentations, every single one of them, and the way I engage with students. I look at a particular slide or a particular presentation, and I try to bring it down to 1 to 3 words or a single phrase. And then I look for an image or maybe a clip that helps illustrate that concept without necessarily describing the concept. Meaning, I want to stir the interest of the students to arrive at an understanding, an aha moment that will stick with them long after my class. Now I just need a white beard and a seersucker. So I encourage you to do the same with your presentations. If you have a lot of bullet points and you think you can get rid of some of those, bring it down to 1 word and offer an inspiring or provocative or stirring image. Why not try it out? See what happens. See where the discussion takes your classes. And if you love bullet points in the end that much, then you can always go back to them. But let's try something new, eh? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. There are more coming your way. Happy learning, everyone.